Okay, I have to be honest with you. I have to be honest with you. When I first pulled the file for today's deep dive and saw the name of the organization we're analyzing, I had a very specific, very skeptical reaction.
I can probably guess why.
I mean, I actually checked the calendar to see if it was April 1st.
You saw Stone Geniuses Incorporated
Yeah.
and thought we had, what, accidentally pivoted the entire show into reviewing stoner comedies.
Exactly. I mean, the name just evokes such a vivid image, right?
Oh, yeah.
You picture a hazy basement, maybe some lava lamps, a bag of chips, and someone just staring at their hand saying, "Whoa, have you ever really looked at a thumb?" It feels unserious.
It's a provocative title, absolutely. It is designed to stop you in your tracks. But, and this is why we're talking about it today, that reaction, that immediate judgment, that's actually part of the point.
A filter.
It's a filter. If you can't get past the name, you probably aren't ready for the methodology they're proposing.
Right, because as we dug into the source material, and I mean really dug in, the twist becomes apparent almost immediately. We are not talking about cannabis. We aren't talking about psychedelics. We aren't talking about substances at all.
No. And we need to clear that up right now. The source material is incredibly strict about this. When they use the word stoned, they're using it descriptively, not prescriptively.
Descriptively, not prescriptively. Okay, let's unpack that, because that distinction is the hinge this whole concept swings on.
Yeah, it's crucial.
They're borrowing the adjective but completely rejecting the drug.
Precisely. They're describing a specific cognitive state. Think about the cultural archetype of the stoned genius, or even just the absent-minded professor.
Right.
What are the characteristics of that headspace? High curiosity, low inhibition, a kind of wandering associative thinking, and crucially, a lack of defensiveness.
It's that state where you stop filtering everything you say.
Yeah.
The manager in your brain goes on a coffee break.
That's a great way to put it. Clinically, we might call this a reduction in rigid executive control. It's a state where the default mode network, that part of the brain that obsesses over self and status, and did I say the wrong thing? It just quiets down.
Right.
The source argues that this state, this high perspective, is actually a distinct neurological gear that humans can access naturally.
And the big claim here is that this gear isn't just for, writing songs or daydreaming.
No, it's for healing.
That's the core.
Right. The central thesis is that people heal faster when they are less defended.
Which sounds so intuitive when you say it, but it's actually pretty radical compared to how we usually handle our problems.
Oh, absolutely.
Usually we try to attack our issues. We treat mental health like a construction project.
Yeah.
Hard hats, blueprints, heavy lifting. We want to crush our goals or fight our anxiety.
We do. We have this very sort of Protestant work ethic approach to our own minds. We work on ourselves. But Stone Geniuses posits that if you're approaching your trauma or your anxiety with a rigid, clenched jaw, you're just reinforcing the tension. You're trying to solve a problem of tightness with more tightness.
So their mission is to explore what they call high people therapies. And again, that's referring to the altitude of the perspective, getting above the maze, not the pharmacology.
Exactly.
But I'm still a little stuck in the mechanics here. If we're stripping away the substances, how do they define this state?
Okay.
Because if I'm not lighting up, how do I get stoned in the way they want me to? Do I just sit there and hope for the best?
No, they focus on what they call natural gateways. And what's fascinating is that you've likely used these gateways your whole life without even realizing they were shifting your consciousness.
Like what?
They list things like deep, unregulated conversation, the kind you have at 2 a.m. where you solve the world's problems.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Humor, creative play, breath
Yeah.
work, nature exposure.
It's interesting that they group humor with breath work. I feel like usually one is seen as a distraction and the other is seen as this serious spiritual practice.
But neurologically, they do something very similar. They shift you out of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight state, and into the parasympathetic.
The rest and digest state.
Yep. The source makes a huge deal about relational safety.
Relational safety. That feels like a term we should unpack. Is that just, a fancy word for trust?
It's trust plus physiology. It's not just knowing someone won't betray you. It's your body actually believing it. Think about being with a friend where you have zero filter. You aren't editing your words. You aren't scanning for danger. In that specific dynamic, your brain actually changes how it processes information. You become more plastic.
More open.
You become more open to new data. That is the stoned state they are chasing.
So in that safety, the fixed narratives we carry around, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, they start to loosen up.
Exactly. We all have these scripts. I'm the responsible one. I'm the screw up. I'm unlovable.
Mm-hmm.
When we're rigid and stressed, those scripts are written in stone. You can't change them.
Right.
But when we enter this high perspective, whether through laughter or meditation or just feeling incredibly safe, the script becomes paper. You can edit it. You can look at it and say, wait, is that actually true?
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here, though,
Go for it.
because I can hear a skeptic in my head. Maybe it's my own internal skeptic screaming at this. Isn't this just escapism? Oh, life is hard, so I'm going to go giggle with my friends or sit in the woods and pretend my problems don't exist. How is this therapy and not just avoidance?
That is the crucial distinction the source makes, and they address it directly. Escapism is checking out. You leave the building so you don't have to deal with the fire.
Okay.
This model is about checking in, but checking in without the armor.
So you're still looking at the fire,
Mm-hmm.
but you aren't panicking about it.
You're engaging with the difficult material, the trauma, the shame, the anxiety, but you're doing it from that flexible, safe state. The source argues that you can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created it.
Right.
If you are anxious about your anxiety, you're stuck in a loop. But if you can get high enough meaning, detached and curious enough to look at your anxiety and say, hello there, what are you doing? Then you have a chance to change it.
It's the difference between being trapped in the storm and watching the storm from a weather station. You see the same wind and rain, but you aren't drowning in it.
That is a perfect analogy. And to get you to that weather station safely, they have a framework. They call it the 3 pillars: safety, clarity, and integration.
And the order is non-negotiable, you said.
Absolutely non-negotiable.
Okay, let's walk through these. Pillar 1, safety. We touched on this, but why is it the bedrock? Why can't we just jump straight to the insights? I want the aha moment. I don't want to spend an hour focusing on my breathing.
Because biology beats psychology every single time. If your body doesn't feel safe, your prefrontal cortex, the smart, rational, pattern-recognizing part of your brain, literally goes offline.
Shuts down.
The source is very blunt about this. Anxious, dissociated, or destabilized states are not insight-producing.
Which runs so contrary to the tortured artist myth we see in movies.
Yeah.
We think we need to be in crisis to have a breakthrough.
Crisis produces reaction. Safety produces insight. If a tiger is chasing you, you don't need to understand the tiger's childhood trauma. You just need to run.
Good point.
So before they do any deep work, they focus entirely on nervous system regulation. You have to convince the body that the war is over, even for just an hour.
So once the body is offline, or rather the alarm system is offline, we move to pillar 2, clarity. This is the aha moment.
This is where that cognitive flexibility really kicks in. When the pressure drops, people start to see patterns. The source describes this as seeing your life without confrontation.
That phrase really stuck out to me, without confrontation. Because usually, when I realize I've been acting like a jerk or that I'm self-sabotaging, my immediate reaction is judgment.
Right.
I confront myself. Why are you like this? You're such an idiot.
Exactly. The internal judge comes out with the gavel. But in this high perspective, you become more like a scientist observing data.
Okay. Yeah.
You see a contradiction. Say, I say I want intimacy, but I push everyone away. And instead of shame, you feel curiosity. You say, oh, that's an interesting mechanism. I wonder why I do that.
That shift from I am bad to I have a pattern that's massive.
It's everything. Because you can change a pattern. You can't really change being bad. That clarity allows you to see the unspoken truths and the habits that have been running the show from the background.
But insights are cheap, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had plenty of realizations in the shower that were gone by the time I dried off.
That brings us to pillar 3, integration. Right. And the source calls this the actual therapy. Everything else was just prep. The rule they have is any insight that cannot be translated into ordinary life is incomplete.
That's a high bar. It stops this from just being a fun philosophical daydream or a whoa, dude moment.
It forces the question, okay, I realize that I'm defensive because I'm afraid of being seen. Great. Now what?
Yeah, how does that change how I talk to my wife tonight?
Yeah.
Or how I answer an email from my boss?
Exactly. You have to bring the stone genius back to the mundane world. You don't stay high. You can't live in that open, vulnerable, hazy state forever. You'd never get anything done. You have to come back down. But the goal is to come back altered. You bring a piece of that flexibility into your rigid Tuesday morning meeting.
I want to pivot now to the how. Because Stone Geniuses has a methodology that I find really refreshing, specifically because it breaks a lot of the rules of traditional therapy. And the biggest one is their reliance on humor.
Yes. Playful intelligence.
Usually, if you're laughing in a therapeutic setting, It's seen as deflection, stop joking, let's get serious. But this source argues that laughter is a tool.
It's a neurological tool.
Oh.
Laughter is an evolutionary signal of safety. You cannot genuinely laugh, if you are in mortal danger.
That's true.
So when you laugh at a problem, you are signaling to your brain, this is manageable. This isn't going to kill me.
It shrinks the monster.
It does. It reduces threat perception. If I can make a joke about my deepest insecurity, I've already detached from it slightly. I'm looking at it rather than being it.
Yeah.
The source says this allows people to touch very painful wounds without getting overwhelmed.
A pressure valve.
Yeah, exactly. And that pairs with their other big rule, which is about language. They have a strict no jargon policy.
This is one of my favorite parts of their whole manifesto.
Mine too. They argue that clinical language reintroduces hierarchy.
As soon as you say dysregulation or cognitive distortion or pathology,
You are the doctor and I am the patient. You are the knower, I am the broken thing. It creates distance. It puts a wall up.
right.
Stone geniuses insist on simple, direct, human language. Because if we are just two humans talking, the power dynamic flattens. It becomes a collaboration.
Yeah.
The practitioner isn't there to diagnose you. They're there to facilitate a state of mind where you can diagnose you. The source uses a great phrase, the normalization of confusion.
I love that because we feel so much shame about not knowing. I'm 40 years old. I should have my life together. I should know why I'm sad.
And this approach says, hey, it's okay to be confused. Confusion is just the moment before clarity. By normalizing that, I don't know, feeling, you stop the shame spiral. You create a session atmosphere where curiosity drives the bus, not the desperate need for an answer.
So let's talk about the user profile here. Who is this actually for? Because as we're talking, I'm thinking this sounds great for some people, but the source is actually pretty specific about their target demographic.
They are. They identify a specific avatar for this work. It's for people with rigid self-concepts, chronic overthinkers, people stuck in shame loops, and creatives who are blocked.
So high performers, perfectionists, the type A crowd.
The people who are holding the steering wheel so tight their knuckles are white, if you look at that list, rigidity, overthinking, defensiveness, the common denominator is tightness. It's excessive control.
And this methodology is the antidote to control.
It's a solvent. It dissolves the glue that holds those rigid patterns together. If you're someone who just, floats through life and can't commit to anything, this might not be for you. You might need more structure, not less. But for the people who are suffocating under their own armor, this is oxygen.
However, we need to be responsible here.
Yeah.
The expert inside you is probably itching to give the disclaimer. Who is this not for?
Yes, crucial boundary here. The source explicitly states this is not a replacement for medical care, trauma treatment, or crisis intervention.
Right. If you are in the middle of a breakdown, you don't need playful intelligence.
You need stability. You need a floor. This framework is a complementary approach. It's for insight and emotional flexibility. It's for when you are stable but stuck.
Greasing the wheels, not rebuilding the engine.
That's a great way to put it. It's high people therapy. It assumes a baseline of functionality that we are trying to elevate, not a crisis we're trying to contain.
I want to zoom out as we start to wrap this up. There's a philosophical undercurrent here that I think is really important for our listeners to catch. It challenges the definition of intelligence itself.
Playful intelligence. The idea that being smart doesn't always have to mean being serious.
We are trained from kindergarten that serious work looks a certain way. Furrowed brow, silence, heaviness. If you're having fun, you aren't working hard enough.
And that belief system blocks so much insight. The source argues that insight can be light without being shallow. In fact, the deepest insights often come when we are lightest.
The unguarded moment.
Think about your own life. When do you get your best ideas? When do you finally forgive someone? It's usually not when you're sitting at a desk grinding your teeth.
No.
It's when you're walking the dog. It's when you're half asleep. It's when you've stopped trying to force the solution.
It's that paradox of effort. It reminds me of when you try to remember a name. The harder you try, the further away it gets.
Yeah.
The second you give up and think about something else, it just pops into your head.
That is the mechanism of Stone Geniuses Incorporated. They are trying to engineer that pop on a larger emotional scale. They are betting on the fact that you already know the answer to your problem.
You don't need an expert to tell you.
You just need the noise in your head to get quiet enough for you to hear yourself.
And sometimes quieting that noise requires a little irreverence. It requires treating your demons like annoying roommates rather than terrifying monsters.
Exactly. Invite them to the couch, give them a snack, and just see what they have to say.
So to recap the journey we've been on, Stone Geniuses isn't about drugs. It's about a state of cognitive flexibility, a high perspective that allows us to drop our defenses.
And it relies on three pillars: safety, which is regulating the body; clarity, seeing patterns without judgment; and integration, bringing that truth back to real life.
And it achieves this through humor, simplicity, and a refusal to be overly serious about the messy business of being human.
It's a permission slip to be unguarded.
Which brings us to the thought we want to leave you with today. We spend so much time trying to solve our lives. We treat our happiness like a puzzle that needs to be cracked with brute force logic.
But if the source is right, that force is actually the blockage.
So here's the question for you to carry into your week. If you believe that your biggest problems require serious thinking to solve, are you actually pushing the solution away?
What would happen if you stopped trying to conquer your problem and instead just tried to loosen your grip on it? What if the answer is waiting for you to stop trying so hard?
A little looseness might go a long way. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.
See you next time.